Welcome to My Long Island TV. From Manhasset to Montauk, we have traveled our communities to bring you the following events. I'm your host, Waldo Cabrera. My Long Island TV starts now.
The U.S. has 5% of the world's population, but we have 25% of the world's prisoners. That's kind of out of whack.
Welcome to Nassau Community College, where we are celebrating Women's History Month. The theme this year is social justice, women, and incarceration. And we chose that theme in part because women are the fastest growing prison population. And so this is an issue that not only affects individual women, but clearly incarceration is something that affects their families and their communities as well.
800%. That is the increase in incarceration of women in this country since the 1980s.
Unfortunately, so many of our lives have been touched by the criminal justice system in negative ways. So a lot of individuals, a lot of our students, a lot of our faculty have their own personal reasons for being interested in this topic. But I also think even if you don't have a personal reason for being interested, it's a social topic that we should all be caring more about. I think I'm going to paraphrase Dostoevsky, the famous Russian novelist, who said that you can really measure society by the way it treats its convicts, by the way it treats people in its prisons.
When a mother is locked up, her kids are 5 times more likely to go into foster care than when a father is locked up, which is, unfortunate.
We had a wonderful crowd for Piper Kerman's presentation today, and they really seemed to respond to her and stuck around for the Q&A, right? And she did a wonderful job. And I think just like the book and the television show, what she really excelled at was to be both entertaining and informative, right? So you kind of get a lot of information about a lot of pressing social issues.
You cannot talk about the American criminal justice system and not talk about race, because what you see on stark display is that different Americans are policed differently, they are prosecuted differently, and they are sentenced differently.
I'm a student here at Nassau. Actually, I'm a full-time student. I'm a fan of the show Orange is the New Black. I've seen all of the first season, and I had the very fun experience of being an extra on the set, actually, a couple months ago out in Riverhead in the prison there. This is Women's History Month. This year they have focused a lot on women in prison. So I think having Piper Kerman here is not only apropos, but she's probably going to be, one of the highlights of the month for us.
As many of you know, Piper Kerman is the author of her memoir, Orange is the New Black, My Year in a Women's Prison. And it was adapted into an original television series for Netflix.
I was very interested in the book and in the show, and I really thought that it would be fun for my students to read something that's really popular right now, something that's popular on Netflix, popular in the news. So I really thought they would enjoy reading part of Piper's book. And so I actually had my students read a few chapters from the book. I gave them questions, vocabulary, and I told them they would be here today and have a chance to meet Piper and then ask some questions of her too. With my students, I teach them that first of all you have to write for fun and you have to write based on your experience, and that's really what this is. And I do think that's something my students really enjoyed about it. They read Piper's story, maybe they can't identify with the jail part of it, but they can identify with going through a situation and just writing about it. And I don't even know if this was intended to be a novel the entire time she wrote it, but it was just her writing about her experiences, and that's valuable, I think, for any student to learn, not just students learning English,
This book is the first thing I've ever written for publication. Every word in the book is true. The show is an adaptation, so there's lots of things that are fictional in the show. There are storylines which depart from the book, and that's fine. And so, for example, there's so many strong women characters in the show, and their backstories and histories are all totally fiction made up by Genji and by the writers on the show. However, the show really stays grounded in the same themes that the book contains. Themes like guilt and shame and pride, family, motherhood, empathy and friendship, gender and power. All of those themes are there in the book, and they're also there in the show.
These young ladies tweeted this picture to me at Halloween, and if this is the result that the show is having, then I am really grateful, because this is sort of what it's all about from my point of view.
Well, I hoped that people would read the book or hear the story, you know, in the adaptation to the show, and that would ask them to ask questions about our criminal justice system, which again is very, very big. It's very costly, both economically and socially. And so I'm always happy to come to campuses and talk to young people about my own mistakes and about the consequences of the actions for me, but also about those broader questions about whether our criminal justice system really does what we expect it to do.